Hello, everybody. I'm back. Thank you once again for indulging me. I failed to mention on yesterday, I guess it was, that I am in West End. As you know, I'm visiting all the parks around the area. Yesterday, I was at John L. White Park. It's off of the MLK Road. We've discussed that road. We've discussed West End. I want to say a few things about it. But today I am at Mosley Park. I'm going to hold the camera up a little bit. It's a pretty large park. What's important for me about it is that as a little boy, my 2 year older brother and my family would often visit Atlanta as my dad has sisters here. And as a little boy, they brought all of us, the children, here to this park. And I remember how carefree and how wonderful a day that we spent picnicking here in the park and swimming in that pool over there. So, as a grown man, every time I pass by here, I have a memory of that experience. But anyway, today I am at Mosley Park. And interestingly, Bobby Hemmett has talked about the West End area of Atlanta. Uh, Most people know that a lot of black people live in this area, but that was not always the case. I believe Jewish people lived over here, and when they moved out, a lot of us were able to move in. But my church, Hillside Chapel and Truth Center, is in this area. And then I began to learn a lot about Atlanta when I um, began teaching in Atlanta public schools. So it was not until that time that I really began to learn a lot about Atlanta. I just took my earpiece out. I hope I don't discover later that that first part has not been recorded. It should be okay though, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. But anyway, Bobby Hemmett has shared with us about how, first of all, that Martin Luther King Jr. was later learned to be an agent, a government agent, designed to uh, quell the emotions of black people so that we were not more of a warrior type spirit and seek integration and all that that has entailed, and then looking at ways we used to protest in, um, uh, marching, singing, the whole idea of Christianity and praying for someone to come and save us. We've now learned all of the deception involved in that. And this area of town, West End, that used to be an affluent white Jewish area, is now a lot of black people over here. But Bobby Hemmett has brought it to our attention that, you see a church on many corners. I think he said West End has 92 churches. And now we understand why that is important to anyone who is maintaining control over the masses of people who are all misled and not even aware. Because those entities, Adaldebrath entities, the archons, have infiltrated our entire community structure, and churches are often used as uh, harnessers of energy. So when people are in there hooping and hollering and singing and praising and calling out for Jesus to come and save them, that energy is being used in ways that they are not even aware of, and how horrible that really is. So I may say some things today that challenge things that but all of us, as we grow in awareness, we have to remain open and create space within ourselves to grow in spiritual knowledge and awareness, and sometimes change our ways of seeing things based on what we learn. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I am here again in Mosley Park. I woke up this morning and Sometimes it's great for me to begin the morning by uh, letting the musical playlist play. When I think back of all the years of life living with bogus HIV, and then beginning to teach online, um, how I would wake up in a certain mood each day and then create a production about that. Well, here again, I believe Mama Nebthet, and that's some minor train going by. But here again, I do believe that Mama Nebthet has ordered even the sequence of what you see when you decide to tune in. I always trust her because, again, she has led certain people to the work who need it most, I think. And so when I look there and I don't have 500 views, or like some good teachers that have thousands of views, I may only have 22. But when I see a small number, I know that those are the people that she has drawn to my work. And so I'm very thankful for that because, a lot of times what the mass of people are thinking is not actually the narrow truth. So my spirits are lifted just if anyone is looking at these presentations, because I know she's guided them to the information. Just as I've called her in as I was on my way here. I told you all about the cramps that I would get if I do a lot of walking, seemingly out of nowhere. How I can't, even drive in traffic. I have to plan driving when I don't get caught in rush hour traffic. Because if I do that, I'll get a cramp in my leg, and going from the pedal to the brakes to the brake to the brake to the pedal to the brake, I'll get a cramp in my leg. I have to pull off the road, pull off the exit, and massage that area, and all those types of things. But I came early in the morning and made it over here to Mosley Park. There's a few maintenance vehicles going about, a few people passing by. But it's very cool and crisp this morning. I really like the weather today. And so, back to Dr. Banks. I took a few notes, of course. Here's Dr. Banks, a Harvard Medical School graduate who is making major change in the world, representing the great divine mother, like I am. I want to remind you all that she did the acknowledgement for me in my book, that I created ads about that, and lend credence to me and my work. I feel, again, that I was one of the first people to introduce spirituality into the science of HIV. Here's my book. Look at that. Look at the design that I and the graphic designer of New Art Studios worked together. See my ankh there? You kind of see the multidimensionality of existence, and of course the chakras. Well, I got to watch him create that one step at a time, all the way from that man, and adding in things. And I'm very pleased with the book. I often talk today about how I have changed so much since 2014, 15, or whenever it was that I published the book. But it really is a great book. I spent so much time in the book back in those days that, the last 2 years I've got to put it on the shelf. And I pick it up when I'm going to do a presentation to market it, and sales are picking up. But it's because of people like Dr. Banks, who recognize me as someone who is a living proof of what I teach. And she teaches about those things, but on a whole different level than I'm able to, because I am not a Harvard Medical School graduate, but I am a doctor of metaphysics. And I care about what I do, and I care about my work. But she has said, in an age of darkness, there are few who want to see the light, let alone bring the light to others. Damian Lester is one of those people. Damian has a deep, instinctive understanding of the relationship between spiritual health and physical health. And his mission has been sharing his insights with a planet drowning in an ocean of suffering. And she is exactly right. I need to get my glasses on here uh, because I want to read a few other things today with you all. I understand that in the interest of time, people sometimes aren't able to watch these presentations. But again, I do like to document. And what I have not done a lot is documented my first book, The Rainbow Warrior, Healing HIV Through Chakra Awareness. Again, I did not get behind that book because of all the typos. I've identified some pages here, and I want to talk about things that are in this book that were left out in the other book. But here you can see, if the train go by there, they say MARTA stands for Moving African Rapidly Through Atlanta. You know, we got a good joke out of that for many years. But here is my chapter in my book about morality, and it got left off. But as you can see, when I went back through and I read and I found all those little things there that could distract the reader, I never did get behind it. However, I have been informed by my missing friend Charla that the book is selling now somewhere in Europe or something for $800. Again, publishers wouldn't get behind me when I initially was trying to bring this information to the fore. And you know, all of that hurt a lot, and it ended up back on the shelf in manuscript form back then for quite a few years. And then later, when I decided I would do a version 2, this book, and all of that went into it, the images, you know, all the things you have to do that you don't think about if you're just someone who has ideas and never really wanted to write a book. And so I'm very pleased with that book. I hope that you will order a copy of it. I have been telling people that it is a lifetime resource. I talk about metaphysical causes of disease, and so you can learn a lot about yourself and how you create your own illnesses and how it is you who can heal them without the need for pharmaceuticals, without the need for surgery. Taking responsibility for taking a real good, honest look at yourself and seeing what can be self-corrected, changed, and the energetic flow within the body through the chakra system can be rebalanced and health can be restored. Okay, so back to Dr. Banks this morning. You know, she said that she was asked to speak about genocide, and she structured her entire performance around that idea that most people who are married and have families and children are very concerned about all the things that are going on. Now here comes a man cutting the grass. I wish he would go the other way, but I'm going to flag him down, but I'm sure he's going to keep doing his job. But I wish that he could wait just a little while. But anyway, Dr. Banks, she talked about genocide. You know, all of my productions show maps. You know, I was fortunately able to realize that all of those Google advanced image searches of maps that I believe were created to instill fear, showing the increased numbers of people supposedly impacted by HIV. If you flip the script on that, what you're basically seeing is the numbers of people that have been murdered. And so, while the marketing of all of that has made it, allowed them to instill greater fear in people about sex, about sexuality, the person like a Dr. Banks and myself can begin to see just how many people are being murdered in this planet. But she talked a lot about that. She talked about it from the scientific cellular structure point, which I talked about in my book, about it all being about melanin and organ harvesting and profiting and manipulation and domination and control through sexual fear. And so she broke it down to the cellular structure, talking about the eukaryotic cell, which is a cell which has a nucleus, And then she talked about retroviruses and all of the inconsistencies in the um, uh, coming to understand about what HIV supposedly is, and all the missteps. Robert Gallo and Luc Montagnier, people who won Nobel Prizes and who profit off of those tests and whatnot, where they were wrong. And HIV was never isolated and purified by means of classical virology, only rushed to the public. And she broke that down. Please take a look at that presentation. It's called, how did she put it? Vaccines and Planned Singularity. Not on my watch, she says. Anyway, it's getting pretty bad here with all of the lawnmower cutters are coming out. So again, I'm going to have to do this one in 2 parts. I'm going to move to a different location. Okay? Thank you all for joining me here today in Mosley Park. We are discussing both this HIV, busting it up, and the genocide campaign against highly melanin people. Okay, I am Damien, Dr. Damien Lasser, aka Kabir Aminara Ampur Sarset Harakti, the Conscious Dr. Rainbow Warrior. I'll see you all later for part 2. Good morning.